Hey guys, I'm going to take a little bit of time to explain URPA to you, what URPA is specifically and what it does for us here in the United States. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Sean Hancock with Mississippi Arm Fighter and USAA. I am also the United States Representative for URPA. I'm here at my house in South Mississippi where it's January the 9th and 75 degrees outside. Classic South Mississippi weather for you. Alright, URPA. It's a unified ratings of professional arm wrestling. What is it? It is a point system that ranks each individual arm wrestler throughout the world and in the country you live in. It was designed by Mazarenko Productions in December 2018. Before I get into the logistics of URPA full blown, there's a little bit of confusion about what it is and how it started and if it caused any kind of split with WAF. First, there's no conflict with WAF with URPA because URPA is not an arm wrestling organization, simply a point system. Anyone can use the point system, even WAF, so it's no conflict. There was URPA was designed to set standards for referees and the sport. Whenever that happened, there was a conflict over referees with WAF. In short, the conflict escalated, causing WAF to ban certain referees and dismantle the referee board. It escalated and snowballed and to where the general secretary said an announcement that they were going to ban athletes. Whenever they said that, spring of 2019, a lot of the WAF countries started backing out because, of course, nobody agrees with banning athletes. In April of 2018, the countries of Ukraine, Finland, and Poland came together and started talking about an all-tariff organization. They came up with IFA. IFA was formed in June of 2019. So, no conflict whatsoever, no split caused by URPA, no split caused by IFA. URPA was no direct conflict at all with arm wrestling because it's only a point system, and IFA didn't get involved until after the split. So, back to URPA. I've got notes here because I'm not real good at this. I'd rather sit down on my computer and write everything out than read it and proof it and go back and change it. So bear with me while I try to explain URPA. Alright. URPA is created, like I said, for standards. The most professional arm wrestling organization in the world is PAL. They have standards, they have guidelines they go by, and they have structure. Any sport to be recognized as a professional sport has to have those components in order to be a legitimate sport. As you know, in the United States and most places in the world, arm wrestling is not a legitimate sport. It's not a legitimate sport because it does not have structure and guidelines and standards. Anyone can pick up a table anywhere and take it to their backyard and host a tournament and call it a professional arm wrestling tournament. In order to get away from that and be a legitimate sport, we have to have these standards and guidelines, and that's what URPA is in place to do. In order to host an URPA tournament, again, any organization can host the URPA tournament. WAF is welcome to. Inside the United States, we have UAL, AAA, USAA, PAF. Anyone is welcome to host the URPA tournament as long as they go by these guidelines set forth by URPA. It's a good thing. In order to be a legitimate sport, we got to have these things, guys. So any sport that you see on TV, they have these guidelines, they have these standards, and the structure. They all use the same types of equipment. You don't watch a football game on TV and one football game is using certain type of football, certain size, certain inflated, and another football game is using a different type of football. Or same thing in golf. They're all using the same types of equipment. Everything's rated the same. So URPA is going to do the same thing. In order to be at URPA tournament, you have to use certain types of equipment. You have to use certain types of referees. You can't pick a referee out of the crowd, because in football, you can't pick a referee out of the crowd to come referee the tournament, the game. Same thing. We got to have these guidelines in order to be recognized as a legitimate sport in the country and worldwide. All right, get rid of this sheet. Again, URPA is owned by Mazarenko Productions. Has no affiliation with IFA, other than IFA chooses to use URPA as a point system for their tournaments. Same as USAA here in the States, and hopefully by the time everybody catches on and understands what URPA is, AAA will be doing URPA tournaments, and UAL and PAF. URPA, other than having its standards and guidelines in order to be a tournament, an URPA certified tournament, other than that, it's a point system for the competitors. It's a system to help change the mentality of a puller. An amateur arm wrestler, for example, there's not going to be an URPA points for amateurs, so it gives them an incentive to pull up into the pros, to get better, to pull in the pros, so they can be ranked by URPA. URPA's got two classifications. They have a general classification and an elite classification. Most tournaments, well, all tournaments right now that are URPA are all general tournaments. If you sign up for URPA and you pull in any tournament other than Zloty, you'll be in the general classification. There's only one elite tournament as of right now, and that is the Zloty Tour. We're trying to change that. We're looking at having multiple elite tournaments in the United States, so it would give a chance for American athletes to be listed in the elite category without having to go to Zloty. We're looking at having other countries do the same thing. So, but no matter where, if you're in the general or the elite, like I said, right now, for the most part, most Americans are going to be in the general classification, unless you went to Zloty and signed up there, until we do have the elite classifications. So anyway, everybody's on the same board. We're in the general classification. We go to a tournament and we win first place. Okay, first place is 10 points for the competitor, and it's broken down after that. If you don't win anything, you get 1 point. But there's a multiplier for every tournament. If there's a small tournament like in a bar, that's fine. We can have tournaments in your backyard as long as you meet the standard minimum requirements. And I'll go over them in a little bit. But you can have a tournament anywhere. But the smaller tournaments, like we're talking about, like the outside back patio of a bar, great local tournaments, but they don't offer any incentives like live streaming, t-shirts. It's not a big tournament. They're going to have a multiplier of 1 or 2. What that means is, if it has a multiplier of 2, and you go to that tournament and you win first place, you win 20 points, not 10 but 20, because it's a multiplier of 2. A tournament like Mississippi State Championship tournament, it will have a multiplier of 3 to 4. Again, if it's a multiplier of 4, which Mississippi State will probably be a multiplier of 4, when you win first place, you'll get 40 points for that place. If you don't win anything, you still get 4 points, because it's if you don't win any, you still get 1 point, and it's a multiplier of 4, you get 4 points. We've already talked about it and approved all of the qualifiers, all of the world qualifiers, to be a multiplier of 5. So every qualifier out there is going to be a number 5 multiplier. Win first place, you get 50 points. You take last place, you get 5 points. Why is this important? Because once this catches on and the athletes are chasing these points and they're wanting these points, then as a promoter, it helps you to grow your tournament. no longer do you want to be a backyard tournament anymore, because you don't want that multiplier of 1 or 2, because people, it'll change you to up your game as a promoter to have a multiplier of 3 or 4, because whenever the schedule is put out and everyone looks at the multiplier 3 or 4, they want these points. What are they looking for? They're looking at tournaments they can go to get the most amount of points. So they're going to multipliers of 3 or 4. So it's helping the promoter. It's giving him an incentive to up his game, and also allows him to charge a little more for his entry fees. Of course, if we have incentives to draw a bigger crowd, and that's what we all do as promoters, we try to get bigger super matches, we try to get better venues, we try to get bands, we try to do whatever we can to have an incentive to draw a crowd to us. And if we do that, we can charge a little bit more for that, because we're having to pay for it anyway. But this gives the promoter an incentive to up his game. Gives the athlete an incentive to up their game from an amateur to a pro, and then to try to seek tournaments with a higher quality athlete. So athletes are getting better because they're going to bigger tournaments now. All right, so there's your qualifiers. The Worlds is undecided what the multiplier is going to be for Worlds this year. It could be lower than a 5, and the reason why, again, the multiplier is used as an incentive to get you to the tournament, and the incentive to go to Worlds is to win a World Championship, so the incentive's already there. So we're probably not going to have any higher than a 5 multiplier. It may even be lower. Standards for a promoter. Like I said, any promoter can ask to host URPA events. It's going to cost you $100 to have an URPA event. You have to have a Mazarenko table. Again, goes back to the same type of football for every game. It's not really a selling gimmick for Mazarenko. It's just to ensure that everyone uses the same type of equipment. If anyone has competed on basically any other brand table, and then they went to Zloty and tried to compete on one of their tables, they understand how difficult it is not to foul out on a Mazarenko table, because there is that much difference. And in combination with the Mazarenko table that you must have, you must use URPA certified referees, and these referees are the best of the best. URPA, whenever this was formed and they were creating guidelines for the referees, they added another classification for referees. It used to be the junior ref, which is basically allowed a down ref. Then you had a senior ref, which is the head ref. He can down ref or head ref to a certain degree of a tournament. Then you had master refs. Master refs are for things like Worlds, head refs for nationals, things of that nature. Because there was such a difference between the senior refs, somebody can basically study a book and have 2 months experience and be a decent referee and get their senior classification. Then next is to train for a master's class. Well, that's just too high of a goal. It's too hard to get, number one, and it's too big of a jump. And we're not trying to let seniors go from senior to master. So there's another step right there, is advanced. So it goes from senior to advanced to masters now. I'm a senior referee, so whenever I step up, I'll go to advanced. I won't get to go straight to masters. Masters is for the best of the best. Whenever I'll get my advanced certification, that I can start down reffing some of these world tournaments, but as a senior I cannot. So it's a good thing. It makes the standards for a referee very high. Again, that creates another important aspect for using the same type of equipment, because you do have such a high quality referee. He's going to catch everything that you do. You're not going to be able to slide your elbow and get away with so much stuff with these referees. It's a good thing to get used to it, because when we get used to it on this level, when we do go to higher class tournaments like nationals and worlds, we're already going to those referees anyway, so we need to be used to them anyway. We're trying to just step up the game of arm wrestling in general so it will be a legitimate sport, and that's the whole idea behind URPA. So besides chasing around all these tournaments, spending your money, trying to get somewhere between 1 and 10 points at smaller tournaments, or 10 to 50 points at larger tournaments, there is another way to gain points. That's vendetta matches. Vendetta matches are 6 full rounds, no matter the outcome. If somebody can win all 6, but it has to be all 6 rounds. If they win the first 4, it doesn't end there. They have to do all 6 rounds. Vendetta matches are kind of like a super match, but on a different level, and it allows you to steal your competitors' points. In order to call a vendetta match, you would have to first be ranked. So basically go to one tournament, get 1 point, be ranked, and then you would call out someone. To the vendetta match would not be allowed. It's basically the representative for that country is going to set the vendetta match up. In this case, it would be me. And it doesn't mean that you would come to Mississippi to pull a vendetta match. That means whenever you want a vendetta match, we would look for you a venue, and probably vendetta matches take place maybe 2 or 3 times per year, certain areas of the country. But for example, I'm not going to let 36 call out number 1. It's just not going to happen. It's going to have to be a pretty legitimate match. The reason why is because the person who calls out their challenger, if they win, they steal the points of their challenger. If someone has 100 points and they're ranked number 9, and number 1 has 500 points, number 9 calls out number 1. If number 9 beats number 1, he will take number 1's points. Number 1 doesn't lose his points, but he gains the same amount of points plus 2. So he has 500 points at number 1. Number 9 had 100 points. When number 9 beat number 1, now he's got 600 points plus 2. So he moves in front of number 2. Number 2 goes down to wherever he needs to be now, because he's still got 500 points, and most times he's going to go just one place back, and the one who beat him is going to go right in front of him. So number 1 lost a place. He went to number 2, but he still got his 500 points. I hope that explained it pretty good, but that's how vendetta matches are. We're talking about, I don't even know if I need to talk about this yet, but there's a possibility of starting elite tournaments in the United States. Well, we're going to eventually, but initially, what my idea is see if we can make this happen. But for the United States already has a national championship tournament, if you want to call it that. But for us to have that one elite tournament, right now the only elite URPA tournament is Lottie Tour. It happens 1 time a year. So my proposal to the URPA board is for each country to have one elite tournament, and that's basically like a Lottie Tour in the United States. If you know anything about the productions of that tournament, if we had that in the United States, that would bar none pass up any national championship tournament that we've ever had. If we could have something on the level of a Lottie Tour in America. So that's what we're fighting for. That's what we're trying to do. That's what URPA is. It's all real exciting things. I hope that everyone gets on board with it. I believe that it's going to take a good bit of the world's arm wrestling population to get on board with it before we turn arm wrestling into a legitimate sport. If we become a legitimate sport, even, curling's in the Olympics. You know what curling is. They're ice skating, they're pushing a little thing around, they got the broom in front of it. Curling's a legitimate sport. As to me, as silly as it is, I know some of you guys like it, but as silly as it is to me, it's a legitimate sport. They have their standards and their guidelines and their system that they go by. That's what arm wrestling is lacking. It does not have that system or guidelines or standards, and URPA solves that problem. Guys, that's all I have about URPA. If you have any questions, you can send me a message on Facebook, Sean Hancock. Look us up at Mississippi Arm Fighter on Facebook as well, or you can email me, mshgeneral@yahoo.com. And if I have anything else later, I'll come back again. Thank you for your time.